For our first project today, I thrifted these pallet signs from Goodwill, and I believe they originally came from the Dollar General. I'm pairing them with three of Dollar Tree crates, and I'm going to create like a nice little storage piece. You could use it for so many things. I added glue to each side of the crates using my Titebond Quick and Thick, and I'm going to do them all the same time. That way I can pull both pallets up and sandwich the crates in between. I tried to space them out the best I could. And I took my lovely clamps and tightened them up real good and just let them dry overnight. As you know, Dollar Tree wood isn't always perfectly straight, and these pallet signs had a little warp to them as well. And so not everything is perfectly even. Sometimes you got to work with what you got, right? And so it's nice and dry, and I'm taking Old 57. This is from Sonnet's Maker's Box this month, and gave the entire piece a coat off camera. After it dried, I gave it a good sanding, and I just love that natural wood peeking through along the sides, just giving that aged, worn look that I love so much. And then I grabbed these herb stakes that I picked up at the Target dollar spot. I think I've had them for a few years. I'm using my little craft saw, and I just cut off the stake since we're not going to use that portion. I'll just save them for something else. And of course, I'll be sure to link this sweet little saw below. It has made crafting so much easier and more enjoyable, especially for small DIYs. And then I used some hot glue and attached each one of these to the front of our storage box. I grabbed my hand sander again, and I gave these little signs a good sanding around the edges. I also knocked back some of the color on the wording because I didn't want it to become like the main focal point, and I wanted these to have that same aged look as the rest of the piece. So just softening everything up a bit made such a difference, and I love seeing that natural wood peeking through around the edges. I think these were made of like MDF or something. And then I wanted to make little seed packets. So I started looking on Pinterest and printed off several different designs, but I couldn't seem to get the setting small enough. Then I came across this one and it was perfect. So I cut them to fit. And as you can see, there was an image on a couple of them. I lost them, but I didn't really need that many. So I have my heavy duty craft paper and my glue stick. And once I got my image glued down, you can see I left about a 1/2 inch overhang on one side and a larger overhang on the other, and then cut the top like an envelope. I think you can see what I'm doing. It's hard for me to explain. And then I just folded over both sides and then use my glue stick to attach them. Look how cute that is. And once they were all assembled, I tucked a piece of packing bubble wrap into each one so they wouldn't look completely flat. I wanted them to have a little bit of, realism to them. And then I just used some hot glue and folded the flap over, and there we have our little seed packets. Of course, I couldn't leave them looking brand new, so I aged them up with a little bit of Tim Holtz walnut stain all along the edges, and I went over the top just a little bit. And this is how it turned out. I think it's such a cute little seed station. I styled it with some of Dollar Tree's mini terracotta pots and those little tiny garden tools I've had forever. Honestly, I don't even remember where they came from, but I think they finished the piece off perfectly. I added little tumbling tower blocks to the back of the seed packets just so they wouldn't flop all over the place. I'd love to know what you think of this. I just love it. All right, friends, this video is part of an open playlist hosted by myself and my sweet friend Yetta from Craft Along with Jay. We host this collaboration on the last Monday of every month, and it's all about creating beautiful things using what you already have on hand, along with items from dollar stores, thrift stores, and just your stash. If you're interested in joining us next month, feel free to reach out to either Yetta or myself, and we'll happily just add you to our group chat. We'd love to have you, and I'll have the link to the playlist down below. Dollar Tree has these wood shapes that they call books, and a lot of us crafters like to make faux books and just anything out of them. I'm going to glue two of them together, and you can see off to the side how I'm gluing them. I'm using Dollar Tree wood glue and a dite of hot glue just to hold it until that wood glue dries. And I was really impressed with this glue. It works great. I hadn't used it before, and I'm really trying hard to use what I have. And so as you can see, I held it there for a second and I set them off to the side. Then I'm taking two of these Dollar Tree arch frames and I'm going to remove the backing and the insides. And my wood is dry. I have my frame here. I'm adding some Titebond Quick and Thick and a little wood glue. And I'm going to add this to each one. So setting it right on the edge of the bottom one. And I'm going to hold it into place just until it grabs. Off camera, I squeezed in a little bit of glue along the sides as well because I want to make sure that if this gets pushed on that it's not going to snap. And if you can't tell by now, we're making bookends. And then I'm painting them both in my favorite black chalk paint that you can get at the Dollar General. All they needed was one coat. I let them dry. I did a little bit of sanding. Now I'm placing my glass back in. For the inside of my frames, I chose this butterfly paper because it reminds me of pages from an old library book. One of them says, "The Naturalist Library and Insecta," which makes it look like a vintage book about insects and butterflies. Since these are bookends, I thought it was the perfect fit and would look right at home sitting amongst a collection of old books. And then lastly, I went over everything with some Sweet Pickens dark oil wax. We use chalk paint, so we want to make sure we seal that in. And then went around the edges with my vintage antiquing paste and then wiped it all back and buffed it out. And that's it for this. And this is how my bookends came out. I love them. I think they're so pretty and I can't wait to use them in my home. What do you think of these? I had a loyal subscriber send me some of her DIYs. Linda made this beautiful wreath And this beautiful scene she made with that resin bunny. I love the Highland cows and the Mackenzie Child's cup. The little clock is adorable in that perfume bottle. Oh, beautiful, Linda. Thank you. All right, on to our last project. I recently had my porch redone, so I have a few pieces from that and 6 more of those wood blocks from the Dollar Tree. No hot glue for this project. We're using Titebond Quick and Thick and adding glue to each side of this block. And a little bit goes a long way. You want to make sure that if you have any oozing along the side, you're going to want to take a damp rag and just wipe that off. I like to go in with just a little and smooth it out and then wipe any excess back. And so I have my glue on each side. I'm going to take another block and butt it right up to the other on each side. Just hold them nice and snugly there. My clamps weren't quite wide enough, so I did let these dry overnight, and now it's the next day. I have my Titebond Quick and Thick. I'm putting it on each side. I'm going to smooth it out real good. Don't mind my old rug. It's in my craft room, and I don't have room for my dog bed, so this is where they sleep and where I occasionally craft. And then I'll flip this right over and set it down onto the bottom of my wood. Just like that. Make sure it's nice and even, wipe away any excess. And now it's all clean and ready to set up overnight. So I set my vintage ammo box on top of both and left them overnight. I chose a stencil, and I'm taking my Paint Couture's embossing medium and my little spatula here. I'm going to spread that embossing medium all over. I thought it was cool to kind of put this design at like an angle. And on the other one, I put the design along the top. You'll see here in a second. And just spread that out, covering the whole design. Well, the whole area of the design. And this dries rather quickly, like within a few hours, probably sooner than that. It's rock hard. So you want to make sure that you clean your stencil right away. And now that that's dry, I took some of the color Celery by Waverly. I watered it down because I want it to be more like a wash. I want that natural wood grain to still show through, but I also want to vintage this up a little bit. And so I didn't want to go heavy in on with my paint. And I'm going to go over both boxes. I'm going to do the whole thing, the front, the back, everything, and inside the box. And I'm using my water mister as I go along, just helping me thin that paint out. And I gave it 2 very light coats. I finished the rest off camera, and I'll tell you why real quick. I went in with Waverly's clear wax for the first time ever using it, and I didn't have a good experience. It was clumping up. It was caking up. It was just not fun. So I went in with my Sweet Pickens dark oil wax, and then also my vintage antiquing paste, and just kind of really worked that out. And at the end of the day, I got the look that I wanted, but it was a ride, and it was just a lot to have taken you on. For the video, I just put them on our new deck, but right now I actually have them styled on each side of our door. We've already gotten several compliments. Our friends and our tenants downstairs, they really love them. I think they really help create such a warm and welcoming entrance. I just love that. Let me know what you think of my planters. All right, that's it for today's projects. I can't wait to chat it up with you in the comments. If you liked it, you know what to do. And if you loved it, hype me up. That supports me more than you know. And don't forget to subscribe. I would love to have you here for the ride. And turn on those notifications so you don't miss another video from me. Be sure to check out the playlist. I'll see you next Friday. Bye.